Hello, my creative friends, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Prompt. Happy Monday. I hope you're ready for a big week ahead. Me too. I hope you're looking forward to writing every single day this week. I hope you're going to be watching this series every day to get a new tip, a new insight, a new perspective, a new way of looking at things that you may already know or may not know yet. And then use that idea or insight to spark your daily action. That's what this show is all about. If you're new here, that cough has been around for a little while. If you're new here, what we basically are doing is I am vlogging my process, my journey of building an independent film studio from the ground up. I have spent the past 10 years building a comprehensive step-by-step professional screenplay development system. And now that that's built, it's time to start using the writers that come out of it and building films, creating films that we're actually going to put out there into the world. Now, along the way, as I document this journey, as I vlog this, we start out right here in front of this backdrop in my little office here. Simply because the beginning part of this journey is really about development. We still have to develop the projects. I have a film that I'm developing. I've talked to a composer last week who's on board. I've talked to a science advisor who's on board. And we're going to start developing that project over the next couple of weeks. My hope is to begin shooting it. Target is around May or June for about a month, probably a month and a half, something like that. We'll do some post-production over the next couple of months. Hope to have it ready sometime in autumn in the Northern Hemisphere, autumn of 2019. That's the goal. That's the target. Whether we hit that target or not, I'm not sure. Once we start going out and actually making the film, my hope is that we will have a team. Any volunteers out there, contact me by DM on Instagram or Twitter. And then we'll do this show from the road. So we'll do this show. I'll help give you ideas and tips and tricks and insights and perspective as we go through the process of building this independent film studio. So in this episode today, let's talk about money. Money is this frustrating thing. If I had all the money in the world, I would already have a team. This wouldn't just be me talking to the camera. This would be me and the team going out and making more interesting, more entertaining daily prompt videos where we shoot stuff out in the field as I'm trying to go put these projects together. The team would go edit and polish and put online, maybe make graphics for all that kind of stuff, so that this actually is a show more than just me talking to you. At the moment, I don't have the money to pay for that team, so I'm looking for volunteers. If you are or know a volunteer, get in touch with me who would want to do that kind of a thing. Now, why would somebody want to do that kind of a thing? If you missed episode number 4, something like that, see the invisible opportunities. If a videographer volunteer were interested in helping me out, then guess what? We're going to get to know each other really, really well. And when we start actually making the films, probably going to swing into the director, DP, some kind of role like that as we get new volunteers in to do this show, which will also serve as sort of behind-the-scenes content for the projects that we make. Now, why go about it that way? Well, because there is no money with which to start. It's not that there isn't money or that money can't be had. It's that my general thesis here, if you've been watching up to this point, is that the thing that's missing from the screenwriting education world, the reason screenwriters, the vast majority of them, are writing material that producers can't say yes to. Literally 1 in 1,000 projects is viable for a producer or production company. It's a terrible number, not just for writers, but for producers looking for material to produce. I couldn't find material. I started helping writers go through that process. Ultimately, the goal is to lift that game. So My general thesis is that one of the main reasons why writers can't actually write material that producers can say yes to is because they don't understand the production process. They don't understand how to take their understanding of the production process and infuse that into their creative process, so that as they create material, it's more in sync with industry needs, with producers' needs, it becomes a more viable project, and the writer becomes more viable, more valuable to the producer and production company because they're able to understand how it all works and therefore how to adapt and align their project. Not so that you sell out and create something that a producer wants, but so that you tell your story, but you tell it in a way that a producer can actually say yes to it. So, because of all that, what I've decided to do is sort of blend what you, the writer, needs with what I'm trying to do, which is build a film studio and basically create something like a learning studio. Ultimately, as writers go through the process and they learn and they develop the skills and are actually capable of writing viable projects and can demonstrate those skills, they move into my writer's room. When they're in the writer's room, they create material for production. I work with them to develop within our production limitations and parameters. And we develop projects that ultimately we hope we can say yes to all of them, but we will say yes to at least one of them from every writer's room group of 8 to 10 people. And so we will make films from the writer's room group. So we're going to prove the concept and to help, if you watched not the personal vlog yesterday, but the one before that, if you understand that the whole point here is to create smaller material that's story-driven as a way to give yourself a showpiece to then be able to open the doors for the bigger budget stuff that you're probably dreaming about, we need to get started on that lower budget stuff. Now, you can run out and go make something, but you're probably going to be production driven. So we want to be driven by writers, by story. We want to create material that is going to grab an audience, pull them in, get them excited about the films, build that audience so that we satisfy a number of objectives all at the same time, so that we can build an audience, we can build excitement, we can expand the sort of publicity of the project. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do here, is build an audience for this show, which becomes an audience for that, which spreads out so we get a more general audience for the kinds of films that we're creating. Now, let's talk about money. The reason we're starting completely zero budget for the first film that we're going to make, and I don't know if it's going to be technically zero, but we're going to try to keep it as close to zero as possible. So I'm probably going to shoot it on this camera right here, which is just a Canon 80D. Probably not even a Mark III or 1X, or probably not even the high format camera. Simply because I don't have access to it. Maybe we can beg and borrow and find it somewhere. Don't know. Don't even know if we want to go that road, because I also want to demonstrate that today we can make movies anywhere. We can make movies with whatever equipment we have. It's not about the equipment. It's not about editing it on your home editing system. It is actually about creating an extraordinary story as a feature-length project that an audience would want to watch. And so that's what the whole point of this venture is. So I have created this system called FAST Screenplay, and I would like for people to go through this process, not because I'm trying to sell you something. I don't make a cent out of it. The reason I want people to go through FAST Screenplay is because I've dealt at this point with literally nearly 15,000 writers around the world over the years. And the vast majority of them simply do not have the skills, are not actually viable. The ones that do, the ones that I found along the way that actually have the skills that we would need to go shoot something with, are already working elsewhere. There is so much opportunity today that the writers who have the skills get noticed. And I apologize if that feels bad or this is not meant to be confrontational to those writers who feel like they're ready but have not gotten across the board. Chances are that work is not actually ready. Chances are that work is not actually viable. Chances are that work doesn't include the production element. You haven't completed all 7 of those phases to a level of professional mastery. So What I encourage writers to do, and what I'm building here is, if writers go through this fast screenplay process, I'm claiming that they're going to have professional level skills at the end. It starts very easy and it gets progressively more challenging as we go along. That's why we go one step per day, right? So to build the writer's room, to create the writer's room module at the end of it, we need to ensure that writers are actually ready to write for production. So we need writers to go through this process, to complete all of it. It's literally a year-long program. Our test writer's room group has about 8 to 10 people in it, and it has 8 people in it. They haven't all completed this, but we had to get started on this somehow. I'm probably going to make the first project. I don't even know if it's going to be any good, but I think it's going to be good. I'm super excited about the idea, but I don't know, because I have been teaching this stuff. I've been developing this. I've been building this. I haven't been going through it and writing. I haven't been refining and honing those skills along the way. Teaching something is a completely different skill to doing that thing. So ultimately, what I want is for writers to go through this process so that we build these active and engaged writers' rooms so that we can develop projects for production. Then I initially, and eventually a whole bunch of other people that decide to join me in this venture, will go out and be making the films that we make through the writer's room. So let's talk about money. So ultimately, my system, I charge cost. So my system is about, ultimately, I have a motto. My motto is, I don't want to make money off of writers. I want to make money off of the audiences that enjoy the films that I make with the writers. So I have always charged only my cost. Now, when I say my cost, it's the cost to build the thing, it's the cost to continue to operate the thing, and it's the cost to grow the thing. So I don't draw a salary from Fast Screenplay at all. We've been in the hole from the very beginning when we first launched it nearly 10 years ago. At the end of the day, I do a lifetime access price for it, and then we drop about 60% off of that. Now, it's kind of an ongoing sale price for a year-long program that's about $1,000. Now, if we had 100 people join us, that would make, that went all the way through the process, that would be 10 writers' room groups with 10 people in it. That would mean that we would be committing 100% to making 10 films from 10 different writers' room groups, one from each group. And if there are more viable projects, we will make more of the films. So from that 100 writers, we could make anywhere from 10 to 100 different films. They're going to start low budget, or we're going to start with our initial trial group low budget. And then as we make profits from those initial ones, everybody will get a little piece of the pie. And then the surplus, the profits, will go into the budgets of the next projects. So if 100 people joined us at the lifetime access thing of the $1,000, right? And by the way, you can get it for a subscription price as well, for like $80 a month, which covers our costs. Because keep in mind, we're actually there with you. It's not a set it and forget it thing. It's not entirely automated. We're watching over you, making sure if you have any questions along the way, we're going to guide you through an intensive year-long program. It is by far the best deal anywhere out there. But let's imagine that we got 100 people to go to join this this initial writer's room promotion, right? So if there were 100 people, that would be $100,000 that come in. Well, what are we going to spend that $100,000 on? First thing we're going to do is we're going to pay off the debts that we currently have that we've been carrying forward through Fast Screenplay. We're about $35,000 in the hole at the moment, in the red, that we have made as a loss. At the very beginning, when I first built Fast Screenplay, I had 3 other people involved. I had a content editor and exercise designer who made sure that, a PhD educator who made sure that everything was sound from an educational standpoint, to make sure that all the ideas that I had, that I wanted to make sure that writers got throughout the way, that there were actually exercises that would build those skills, take it from theory and turn it into actually skill building. So I had that person, I had a graphic designer person, and I had a programmer. we put a chunk of money into marketing to try to help get people to know about it and excited about it. Now, here's the problem. That initial group of writers who went through the initial process, I thought it was going to take me about 6 months to build the system. It took me almost 4 years. And so those people were gone within the first year because there was just not the money to pay for them. And so we've been in the hole for Fast Screenplay since the very beginning. We've had people signing up along the way, little drips and drabs, people trickling in, people paying for some subscriptions. They'll go for a couple months, they'll quit. Because there's no incentive up until now. There was no writer's room and production incentive at the end. So it's my hope that by adding the writer's room, by adding the production module, that this all becomes self-reinforcing. That what we build here turns into something that I can share with you on this show. So if you never join us, you never become a part of it, totally fine. You'll be able to watch and learn sort of from the outside. If you were to join us, you become a part of that. If you actually follow through and go all the way, then you become a part of the writer's room. We ultimately end up making the films that you write and that you are contributing to. So first thing we would do is we pay about $35,000 towards getting cleared away, right? The next version, the updated version of Fast Screenplay, version 2. It's currently at version 1 as I record this video. Version 2, we have had different price estimates, but version 2 and what we want to include in all the additional functionality we want to include in it, we've gotten quotes anywhere from about $12,000 to about $160,000. So, the $12,000 person, I think we can rule that out because I don't think they fully understand the brief and what's involved. The $160,000, I think that's probably a little agency end, high end. So we're probably going to be somewhere in the $50,000 to $80,000 range to build the thing. So those 100 people, after paying off the debts, that's still not going to pay for the next version of Fast Screenplay, because what we're also going to do is upgrade the equipment, possibly get a newer camera, possibly pour some of that money into those initial productions. So that as we make money from those initial productions, or possibly funds would go towards marketing to sort of expand the word and get more people interested in what we're building and watching the show, and possible volunteers and all that kind of thing. So that money goes very, very quickly. Now, along the way, we're also there to service you. That we're also there to help you, to support you at every step of the way. I want to make sure there's always a live person. It's me right now. Ideally, I want to get somebody in, a moderator, a teacher, someone who can help guide you through, who will understand the system as well. We've got to train that person up. So you're probably looking at 20 on the low end, 40, 50 on the higher end. You can see how that money is pretty much gone pretty much like that. So a lot of people look at Fast Screenplay and they think it's expensive. It's the I don't want to say cheapest because it's the most value, right? But it's the least expensive option that there exists today. And it's the only option that has production now at the end of it. The whole point of production is the productions are going to fund the next productions. So the very first project that we're going to make is going to be a no-budget film. Let's just say I'm going to write and direct it, because that's almost certainly what's going to happen. It's a science fiction film. It's a really cool concept that I will share with you as we get underway in making the thing. I'm deliberately going to make it for as close to $0 as possible, so that whatever sales we can make, video on demand downloads, if we can make sales to Netflix or Amazon or Hulu, or we can possibly even get it into to film festivals and get a wider distribution deal. We'll see what we can do. We can't predict that now. We have to see what the end product ultimately looks like. If I invest all my time and energy into making it for nothing, then ultimately we have a greater chance of making some money, which can then all go into the next project, or the next 2 projects, or the next 5 projects. If we make something that's a big hit, which is entirely possible based on what I think it's possible based on the concept, because I'm super excited about the concept. If we were to make something that was a hit that made 100,000, 500,000, $1 million, 2 million, all of that revenue then gets Some of it goes to all the people involved. That's the whole point. But then the vast majority of it goes into further building and expanding and growing the system. The next productions, the next versions of Fast Screenplay, possibly being able to drop the price so that if the cost is lower. Ultimately, the more writers join us, the more resources we have to continue to grow and expand the system. So when I talk about money, when I talk about you joining Fast Screenplay, I know that writers have this intrinsic resistance to anything that costs money, in part because you can watch videos like this for free on the internet and you think you can learn the process or you think you can learn the skill. In fact, as I hope everything has made clear if you've been watching this series up to this point, there's a lot to it. And I have spent 10 years meticulously mapping it into a step-by-step process. That process, I sell at cost because I don't take a single cent out of it. I'm in debt because of it. Why? Because I believe that it's going to generate projects that we can actually produce and make money out of. So I want to make sure that the writers get paid. I want to make sure that the writers get credit. I want to make sure that the actors and whoever else ends up getting involved gets a cut of those projects as well. I'll take a little cut at that point. And then what surplus happens goes right back into the system to continue to grow and expand. Why? Because I firmly believe that every single one of us has stories inside us. I firmly believe that if we actually tap into those stories, we actually make movies, that we can ultimately lift the game of storytelling. We can build from the ground up. If you have no money, you have to start from the ground up. You have to what I call bootstrap. You have to create from nothing. The beauty of our world today is that we have the tools to make extraordinary films, digital entertainment, television, social media stories, and there's so many places that you can practice your skills. There's so many places that you can develop your storytelling ability. And we can go out and do it immediately. We can go out and do it with the tools that we have in our hands. There is distribution available to us today. There is the money side of it is available to us today. We can find musicians online. We can find camera people online. We can find graphics people online. Ultimately, if you're starting at the bottom, you have to start, not at the bottom, but if you're starting lowest budget, you have to extend your money as far as you possibly can. I'm going to extend it as far as this is why I say it doesn't matter if you join us or not, because ultimately I'm going to be making these low budget, no budget features initially, regardless. I have the resources, I have the time, I'm going to be making these projects. Hopefully you'll be able to see those projects. I'll be able to teach you from those projects. Maybe that will inspire you to join us and be part of the subsequent projects, but that's entirely up to you. You can still take the lessons, you can still take the knowledge and go do it yourself. I just believe that what I'm building is going to be a massive thing if I can successfully achieve it. And if you've been watching this far, you know that I'm not giving up. You know that I'm here until I'm gone. So, when we think about money, we need to understand that money is a resource. Ultimately, money is a resource. Ultimately, money is a means to an end. We shouldn't do something for the money. We shouldn't not do something because of the money. The money is like time. It's like a camera. It's like this chair. Money needs to go into this chair so I can get a chair that doesn't sink in the middle of the videos. Low budget productions, my friends. At the end of the day, if you think so many writers, so many filmmakers have this self-constricting idea that money is the game, that you're writing something to sell it for $1 million, to sell it for $100,000, to get it made into a movie that will make you $1 million. That's not the reason to get into this game. And investing in yourself, investing in the tools to get there is if you avoid making those very obvious investments, it's a fool's game as well. So my encouragement to you, if you have no money at all, is to find someone with a camera, go out and make something. That's production driven. Write something first. Start making something on a low budget. Figure out the distribution end of it. Or join me in what I'm building so that we can all do this together. It's up to you entirely, and it's totally cool. Now, I also want to talk about money from the other angles of the money. So if you have any questions about anything related to money with the film industry or with the screenwriting world, what do screenwriters get paid? All those kinds of questions that are way too premature at this point, but if you have those kind of questions, pop them into the comments below. I will address them initially in the comments, and then we'll address them on an upcoming video as well. But I want you to understand, ultimately, the big takeaway from this is that money is a resource, just like time. Money saves us time if we invest it wisely. Money helps us do the things that we have in our imagination. It's not the be-all, end-all. It's not what drives most of us. I don't know if it drives you. I don't know if the goal of being rich and famous drives you. It does not drive me. I don't know if you've watched my TED Talk, but that's what drives me. The idea of expanding this, of sharing this, of helping people tell their stories, because it's going to make this extraordinary future that I imagine, it's going to make that real. Money helps us get there. That's all it does. That's all it means. So let's not get hung up on that part of it. Let's understand how the money gets spent to help us get where we're trying to go. If you change the way you think about it. Now, obviously, some people have, and I'm talking to those who are hung up on it. If you change the way you think about it, you free up your creativity in a way that's hard for me to explain or describe. Because ultimately, if you're driven by the goal of becoming rich and famous, or selling your script for $1 million, or getting your movie made for $1 million, or making huge box office so that you reap financial reward, or even just getting enough money to pay your rent for the next 3 months. If you're driven by that, your creativity is going to suffer. I've seen it happen time and time again. Money is not the primary driver. It's not the primary motivator for an artistic person, for someone who's trying to create a story to connect with other human beings. So this is my frame on money, and this is my frame on what this whole thing can be about. So if you have any questions, pop them in the comments below. For today's daily prompt, what I want you to do is I want you to look at your project or whatever it is that you're creating and really look at the money angle of it. How long would it take you? What would money be able to help you do to get that? What money do you actually need to achieve that? You may or may not know. So use your imagination. Start to map it out. Start to plan out. See the dollar value of whatever it is you think you're creating. Not to be driven by that dollar value, but to make the idea more real, to make the idea more tangible. Because anything you can imagine, anything you can dream is within your grasp. And it doesn't have to cost anywhere near what you think it might. So that's today's daily prompt. Any questions, let me know. Please comment, like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. It's absolutely essential to help us build what we're trying to build. So thank you for watching. Take action, and we'll see you tomorrow.